Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin Nelson. Here's a look at what's going on this week in the news. We begin with news from the Vatican. Pope Francis celebrated Mass in St. Peter's Basilica on the World Day of the Poor. About 6,000 poor people attended the Mass as special guests. They were joined by volunteers and others who assist disadvantaged communities. During his homily, the Pope urged everyone to pray for the grace to hear the cries of all the poor, the stifled cry of the unborn, of starving children, of young people more used to the explosion of bombs than happy shouts of the playground. The Pope said, may people hear the cry of the abandoned elderly, those who lack any support, refugees and entire peoples deprived even of the great natural resources at their disposal. After the Mass, the Angelus, the Pope joined some 1,500 poor people in the Vatican's audience hall for a lunch.
To celebrate the Second World Day of the Poor, the Pope held a Mass and organized a special lunch in Paul VI Audience Hall. It was attended by 1,500 homeless people in Rome. This initiative began last year at Pope Francis' request. It aims to end indifference and throwaway culture. As soon as he arrived, the Pope greeted the cooks, who were sent from the Hilton Hotel. To the amazement of those who observed him, the Pope opened the lunch with words of thanksgiving.
Che Dio benedica ognuno di noi, benedica I nostri cuori, benedica le nostre intenzioni e ci aiuti ad andare avanti. Amen. E buon pranzo.
The Pope sat down with them to eat, where they all joked and laughed together. Those who were sitting at the same table as him took pictures, and those at other tables looked at him intently. Moreover, he even brought with him musical accompaniment. It was an unforgettable day, especially for those who unfortunately are not used to being treated with equality or respect.
Message this year that he established the World Day of the Poor to encourage the whole church to reach out to those in need and let the poor know their cries have not gone unheard. UN groups estimated there are some 700 million people in the world who are unable to meet their basic needs, and that 10% of the world's population lives in extreme poverty. In news from around the world, Catholic and international aid organizations are calling for an end to Yemen's war that the United Nations says takes a child's life every 10 minutes. David Beasley, executive director of the World Food Program, called Yemen the world's worst humanitarian disaster in 100 years. Half of Yemen's 28 million people are on the brink of starvation, and the country is suffering from the worst cholera epidemic in modern history. Kevin Hartigan, the Catholic Relief Services Regional Director for Europe, the Middle East, and Central Asia, said the humanitarian disaster in Yemen is at horrific proportions. Recent fighting between Iranian-backed Houthi rebels occupying Hodeidah and government militias supported by Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates threatens to push the country into full-blown famine. Up to 85% of food passes through the Hodeidah port. According to UNICEF, more than 400,000 children are starving and another 1.5 million are acutely malnourished and need aid to survive. Pope Francis repeatedly has urged the international community to make every effort to end the Yemeni crisis. More news from the Vatican. During the Sunday Angelus on the World Day of the Poor, the Pope spoke about the recent violence in the Central African Republic as well as the devastating fires in California. Rome Reports has more from the Vatican.
In the final days of the liturgical year, the Church reflects on the apocalypse. During the Angelus, the Pope said that this will be the decisive moment when the whole truth of one's life will come to light.
Avremo con noi nient'altro che quanto abbiamo realizzato in questa vita credendo alla sua parola. Il tutto o il nulla di quanto abbiamo vissuto o traslasciato di compiere. Con noi soltanto porteremo quello che abbiamo donato. Quello che abbiamo dato.
The Pope also denounced the violence in Central African Republic. An armed group attacked a refugee camp, killing 42 people. 2 of the victims were priests.
Con dolore ho appreso la notizia della strage compiuta 2 giorni fa in un campo di sfollati nella Repubblica Centrafricana. Preghiamo per i morti e i feriti e perché cessi ogni violenza in quel amato paese che ha tanto bisogno di pace. Preghiamo insieme la Madonna. Ave o Maria, piena di grazia, Signore è con te.
Before going to lunch, the Pope also asked pilgrims for prayers for the victims of the massive fires in California and frost suffered by those on the east coast of the United States.
Fire officials in California have reported that the death toll had reached 77 in the Camp Fire north of Sacramento, one of the deadliest blazes in the state. The number of people who are missing has reached around 700. Full containment of the fire is not expected until November 30th. Bishop Jaime Soto of Sacramento celebrated Mass November 18th at St. John the Baptist Church in downtown Chico for those affected by the Camp Fire. He especially invited the community of St. Thomas More Parish in Paradise. Their church was in the direct line of fire, and the town of Paradise has been completely destroyed. Residents of Southern California have been coping with the Woolsey fire near Los Angeles, which started November 8th, the same day as the Camp Fire. Full containment of that fire was expected by November 22nd. 3 fatalities have been confirmed in the Woolsey fire, and close to 1,500 structures have been destroyed. And finally in the news, in a Mass at the Cathedral of St. Peter the Apostle in downtown Jackson, Mississippi, Bishop Joseph Kopacz of Jackson read the edict to open the sainthood cause for Sister Thea Bowman. Days before the Mass, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops unanimously voted in support of the cause moving forward during their General Assembly in Baltimore. Sister Bowman, a Mississippi native and the only African-American member of the Wisconsin-based Franciscan Sisters of Perpetual Adoration, was a widely known speaker, evangelizer, and singer until she died of cancer in 1990 at the age of 52. The Diocese of Jackson has launched a website, sistertheabowman.com, detailing Sister Bowman's life and the cause for canonization. Well, that's all the information we have for you at this time. I'm Kevin Nelson. Don't forget, you can keep up to date on Catholic news throughout the week with Catholic Newsbreak right here on the Catholic TV network.